Good morning again. I think it's still morning. It may be morning/afternoon. My name is Heidi Harrell, and I am president of the Arkansas chapter of PRSA. And I would like to take this time to welcome all of our members and guests to this extremely special luncheon honoring two outstanding individuals, Susan Blair and Dr. Jonathan Bates. I'm sure you all have noticed the beautiful plants on each table. A huge thank you to Access Schools for providing these gorgeous centerpieces, and they are for sale. $25 in proceeds benefit access. If you're interested, please see Becca Green. Wait, Becca. She accepts cash or checks made out to Access, all proceeds benefit access, and they are super Bellas. Took me about 15 minutes to learn that, so just FYI. And I'm sure Becca does not want to haul them back to her car, so donations are welcome. Also, our webmaster, Randy Harville, will be tweeting live from our chapter's account, but please feel free to tweet from your own personal account and use the hashtag ARCPRSA. In addition to today's luncheon, April is an important month to our PRSA members. I would like to introduce Brandy Hinkle, our chapter secretary and APR co-chair, to tell us more about it.
Most of you probably know that Dan McFadden is also the co-chair. He asked me to come up and speak briefly about APR month. This is when we focus on the accreditation and public relations. We have a robust number of folks in our chapter that have it, but we would love to have 5 more by the end of the year, and so we are going to help you all do that. And there are several benefits to having your APR. One is that generally those with an APR are paid more in the field. But we also just had an article that came out that said those who have their APR are considered more ethical. It's one of the things we focus on when we are going through the APR process. And again, I mentioned that we want to help you do that. So after the meeting today, we will have what's called an APR boot camp session. So anyone who doesn't have their APR and who is interested in the process, please come. We are trying to entice you to be there, and one of those is that we're going to have a drawing. So anyone who does attend the boot camp will be entered to win the Cutlip Effective Public Relations book, which is valued at about $150. This is almost like the Bible for the APR. So we again would encourage you all, if you're interested in the APR, to stay after the meeting, and we'll talk a little bit about the study sessions that we are going to have this fall that will be no cost to you. And if you participate in those, we have several rebates to help offset the cost of the APR. So if you have any questions, please find me, ask Dan. We have several APRs here in the chapter. Again, we're really proud of the new ones that we have. Brandon Morris, you'll remember, was pinned last month. He is going to be on our committee. He's the only APRM in the state and one of only 3 in the Southwest region. So we're really proud of him. Again, if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them and hope to see several of you after the meeting.
Lunch will now be served, and we will start the program shortly. Enjoy.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Please continue to eat, but direct your eyes this direction. So, kind of like this. My name is Lisa Bondurant. I'm the immediate past president of the chapter, and I'm very pleased to welcome you here today. On your table, inside your program, there is a sheet titled Past President's Council. On that sheet, you will find a roster of professionals who have served as leaders of this chapter going all the way back to 1964. Does everybody have that? There'll be a quiz. They are also the council that's responsible for reviewing the nominations and selecting the award recipients that are here today. Leadership comes in many forms. In this chapter, it frequently comes in the form of a member who's brave enough or foolish enough to open an email from me, and rather than cringe at the contents, to say an enthusiastic yes to the request contained therein. These are individuals who do not sit on the sidelines, but instead they make things happen. I would like to recognize those leaders who did just that, donated their time and donated their expertise and their services to this event. First, the event committee, and I'm going to ask you to stand since this is kind of a big room. I'd like to start with my deputy, who has, as many of you noticed, been duly deputized. That would be Bruce Trimble. Back. He does have a badge, and he's not afraid to use it. If you have any issues, see Bruce Deputy Trimble. It usually helps if there's a happy hour involved, but getting these people together and getting them to donate their time really is not hard. These are the people and the professionals who make things happen in this chapter. In fact, they're usually the ones that are advising the rest of us. Kids, don't try this at home. I'm a trained professional. That's what they do. Heidi Harrell, who is our current chapter president, the Energizer Bunny has a picture of her taped inside his locker, and he looks at it every day wistfully, wishing to someday become as truly nonstop as her. And if you've worked with her, you know that that is the case. Dan McFadden. And Stacy Jones. Thank you so much to the committee. Huge, massive, like of the enormous variety. Massive thank yous to Natalie Godotti. Natalie, will you stand, wave? And the crew at Eric, Rob, and Isaac, they produced the program and the invitations for this event. Paul Strack of Custom XM has rudely chosen to go to New Orleans instead of coming to our event today. He donated the printing. Thank you very much. And I just want to say, if there's anybody in this room that does not personally know Paul Strack of Custom XM, you are missing out on working with one of the nicest, coolest guys in the printing business. And his number is 590-6569 if you would like to get in touch with him. He is such a nice gentleman. Never, ever, ever fails to say yes when we need help. On the back side of that sheet, if you'll turn it over, you'll find a list of the Arkansas Chapter's award recipients. So let's start with the Crystal Awards. Does everybody have that sheet? In our chapter's 50-year history, the Past President's Council has bestowed only 25 Crystal Awards. Why is that? Is it because you have to have starred in a major motion picture, or do you have to have been wounded in action, or set a new sales goals for like news releases? No, it's because the Crystal Award is the PR equivalent of SEAL Team 6. It's the only award given to the elite, the skilled, the seasoned, and accredited PR practitioners who have provided significant service to their chapter or their community. So it will come as no surprise that our most recent Crystal Award winner, which was presented in 2010, and it's our tradition here to have the past award winner present the current one, who will do the honor of presenting this year's Crystal Award, is our very own certified PR SEAL Team 6 member, Dan McFadden. Please welcome Dan.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Appreciate it. And I just want to say, good afternoon, and thank you all for coming today. And Susan, it's certainly great to see you and your husband Steve and your co-workers and friends here. We're so glad you could join us for this outstanding honor. Today we are here to celebrate Susan Blair, APR, who is an outstanding recipient. It's an honor that I know you'll all agree with me is long overdue. Susan Blair has over 35 years of experience in financial services with special expertise in marketing, public relations, strategic planning, sales, and financial management. Susan joined Bank of the Ozarks in 2004. She manages investor relations for the publicly traded company and is responsible for corporate communications and public relations. She also directs product development for the bank's 117 branch offices in Arkansas, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Wow, a lot of branch offices. In order to get a better understanding of Susan and her daily responsibilities, I decided to do a little research, and I turned to the Bank of the Ozarks Chief Banking Officer, Tyler Vance, and who had a few things to say about Susan. Quote, Susan's an idea generator, excellent team player, a great collaborator, and an innovative thought leader. She heads Bank of the Ozarks Investor Relations, which means that she's involved in knowing the strategic direction and the strategic thinking that goes on behind the scenes. She's able to carry that forward as the primary contact and as primary spokesperson for our company. In addition, she also heads up our product management and development area, which includes all our product line, product positioning, customer segmentation, development of new products, and administration of those products. She works with a wide range of bankers within our company and uses her excellent people skills and consensus building to get things accomplished. Susan is extremely tenacious and is dedicated and committed to really seeing things through their completion. It's a pleasure to work with her, end quote. So, in essence, she does it all. Susan's been a member of the Arkansas chapter of PRSA since 1985, and she's a past president of the Arkansas chapter, where she served more than 15 consecutive years, which is just unbelievable there on our board of directors, and 12 of those as secretary-treasurer. No other member has served more consecutive years on our board. So what a challenge to us all to live up to the standards that Susan has set for us all. And she is indeed accredited in public relations. A few chapter members have also shared their thoughts about Susan. Our friend Andrea Hooten, APR, said, quote, I remember meeting Susan for the first time in '93 when I was an account executive at Cranford Johnson. She was at Twin City Bank. I was drawn to her knowledge of bank marketing and PR because I had just gotten my first banking client and needed some insight for the task ahead. Since then, I had the privilege of working with her as the PRSA membership chair when she was president. Her attention to detail and intelligent leadership made my first run as a board member not only pleasant, but fulfilling. When I grow up, I want to be like Susan. End quote. Our good friend Dan Doherty, APR, said, quote, Susan's low-keyed, elegant leadership style instills confidence in everyone who knows her. She has set the standard for melding public relations expertise with the technical skills of banking, end quote. And Patrick O'Sullivan, APR, ABC, added, quote, Susan's calm yet experienced demeanor has proven beneficial to many prominent Arkansas organizations and the varied publics they serve. She engenders trust and confidence in all who get to work with her. And as an added bonus, she's a nice person too, end quote. Jim McCall, who could not be with us here today, and it was also instrumental in her nomination, I must say. Jim McCall, APR, said, quote, I well remember when Susan and I and about 4 others went through the accredited and public relations study exam at the same time. Susan really stepped up and took the lead in the study sessions, prepared the study material, organized it, helped us all through the APR process. And what a really great influence she had on us all. Carol Castle, APR, who is here. Hello, Carol, in the back, who was also instrumental in your nomination. She added, quote, Susan has tirelessly served this chapter and was one of the strongest chapter presidents we've ever had. I still remember the board's planning retreat when she became president. I also remember Susan serving many years as our treasurer. And that was long before we had technology to help with the dues, billing, and accounting. And Carol continues, this is really cool. So she is the consummate bank marketing professionals, but there's another side of Susan many of you may not know. There's Susan, the doting grandmother. There's Susan, the world traveler. And then there's Susan, the triathlete. Yes, I said the triathlete. She underlined that. Thank you, Carol. She has completed, this is mind-boggling to me, 47 triathlons, including a full Ironman, 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, 26.2-mile run, and over a dozen marathons, half marathons, and mountain bike races in 8 states over the past 10 years, end quote. And we have Superwoman in our midst, ladies and gentlemen, so congratulations. Wow. I just want a picture with her. Maybe some of that will rub off on me and help me. So I want to say my first experience with Susan was actually on another field. It was the soccer field. Her son Andrew and my son Daniel both played soccer together for Holy Souls and a couple other teams, and we sure had fun rooting for them through the years, didn't we, Susan? I was fortunate enough to have served briefly on the board under Susan's leadership, and she was president at the time. I was coming on the board when the president-elect Jim McCall was going to lead us in our retreat. So what I saw is I was always so impressed with Susan and her keen business sense and willingness to help us and guide us through the process of a board meeting, and that was just so important. Her vision and organizational skills set the groundwork for the soon-to-be-built chapter website. So in terms of the way the chapter communicates on a daily basis, we really all have Susan to thank. So, in closing, for Susan's leadership and commitment to the Arkansas chapter of PRSA, please join me in congratulating Susan Blair, APR's our 2013 Crystal Award recipient. Oh, let me remove that.
There you go. Do one more of those. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Hoping that's going to rub off.
Dan, thank you so much for that very kind introduction, and thanks to all of you that contributed such generous comments. 3 years ago, Dan, when you were the chapter's Crystal Award recipient, I remember being so impressed with your professional accomplishments and your service to the chapter, so it means a lot to me to be introduced by you. I remember, too, at that meeting that Dr. Bates was here to honor you, so it's very nice to have him back this time to be recognized for his outstanding service to Arkansas. And I want to thank Carol Castle and Jim McCall for nominating me for the Crystal Award, and to the Past President's Council for their selection. This is a special award for a PR professional, and I'm just elated to be among the 25 recipients who've received this award over the past 35 years. I've known each of those previous recipients, and they've all served as role models to me for many years. As Dan mentioned, I've been a member of PRSA for a long time, 28 years, but actually my involvement goes back even prior to that. When I was a student at UALR, studying advertising and public relations, our professor and advisor, Gene McCoy, required that his students be members of the student chapter, PRSSA. So I remember how exciting it was to get to come up here for meetings and be among all the PR giants of our industry. And I have loved the profession ever since that time. Like many, if not all of you, and Dan mentioned, I wear a lot of hats at Bank of the Ozarks, and I know you guys do too, but I draw on the principles of public relations every day as I face the day's challenges and opportunities. As PR professionals, we're taught to define the problem, and a lot of times that problem is defined for us, and then conduct research, and then use that research to discover new insights, and then develop a strategy, execute the plan, and then go back and evaluate the results. And this basic PR framework is an essential foundation for just about everything that I do. And PRSA in this chapter has been very meaningful to my development as a professional over the years. I've taken advantage of the workshops and the seminars and all the professional development opportunities and the monthly meetings where we've had such outstanding programming. And there's one particular meeting that stands out as memorable, and that was back in 1986 when our chapter hosted a district conference here in Little Rock. And we brought in the father of public relations, Edward Bernays. Now, if you've studied for your accreditation or studied PR at all in school, you'll remember that this is the man that is really considered to be the founder of the modern day practice of public relations. And he was here. I believe he was our keynote speaker, and if I recall, Carol Castle had the opportunity to escort him to the podium, and she may have even introduced him that day. And Laura Newman and I got to escort him to and from the airport, and it was just thrilling to us to be in the presence of this man who was so widely known and was just such a legend in PR. And at the time, he was 94 years young, so it was a lot of fun. Our industry has evolved a lot since the days of Edward Bernays, particularly in the last few years. And with this evolution of communications, just the opportunity to network with all the members in our chapter has been so valuable to me. not only do we have the opportunity to learn from and benefit from the experiences of our more senior members and their wisdom and wealth of experience, but also the opportunity to network with the younger members and learn how they're using the latest technology to communicate with their audiences and deliver their messages and really engage their membership. So it's this great mixture and blend of experiences in our chapter that makes it such a vibrant professional development opportunity for all of us. Of course, I've also benefited tremendously from my associates at Bank of the Ozarks. They are absolutely the brightest, most talented professionals in the industry, and it's just a privilege every day to get to work with them, and a privilege to get to work for the top performing bank in the nation. My husband of 32 years, Steve, is here today, and he's been a tremendous supporter of mine as we've both tried to maintain our sanity while we've tried to raise our family and balance our professional lives. So with this strong support of my family and with a tremendous support from the good fortune of working with an outstanding banking organization, I've really been blessed to be able to live the dream of doing what I love and loving what I do. And I want to thank all of my friends in PRSA for your help along the way and for this tremendous honor to be the Crystal Award recipient. Thank you.
What a gracious individual. I think we all want to be like Susan when we grow up. So, if you will now allow me to direct you back to the sheet of the award winners at your table that contains the name of the Diamond Award recipients. I want you to take a minute to look at that. Just glance at it, see what you notice. First off, the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that there are no women on this list. Is that because women are not worthy? Absolutely not. It's because women are rarely nominated, and they're traditionally underrepresented in the nominations. So I'm going to take this very brief moment while I'm standing at the podium to encourage you when the round of nominations and the call for nominations comes open again at the end of this year, to really give some thought to nominating those women who are positively impacting our state through their outstanding communication. You may have also noticed that there are even fewer of the Diamond Awards than there are of the Crystal. There are 13, to be exact, in the chapter's 50-year history. And my guess is if you look at that list, most of you will recognize almost every name on the list. And the reason is because these are the state's true visionaries. These are the individuals who have helped to build many of the things in Arkansas that we consider great. And then, once they've built them, they've embraced PR and they've embraced communication, and they've used those tools to tell people about that. And one of those people is the 2012 recipient of the PRSA Diamond Award, producing artistic director of the Arkansas Repertory Theater, Bob Hupp.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor for me today to present this year's 2013 honoree and the Diamond Award. It was just a year ago that I was honored here, and it just seems like such a short time ago. I think it's the last time I was in this room, and I'm honored to be back. I'm in rehearsal right now for Death of a Salesman, which opens at the Rep next week, which is my public relations plug for our experience here today. Thank you very much. But you know, Death of a Salesman is really just an object lesson in poor public relations. And so that's what we've been working on in our production that opens next week. And you know, Dr. Bates, as the previous award winner, I'm going to pass along a very important thing that I learned as last year's winner, and that is this beautiful award is in 2 parts. So I also learned that the top part is incredibly resilient when it falls to the floor. But please keep that in mind. The Diamond Award is an external award presented to a person who has, in the opinion of the judges, made significant contributions resulting in the enhancement of the image of Arkansas, or who has performed outstanding service to the state in which the principles of public relations have played a part. To date, only 13 individuals have received this most prestigious award. So today, Dr. Bates becomes the Arkansas chapter of PRSA's 14th recipient. Since 1993, Dr. Jonathan R. Bates has served as President and Chief Executive Officer of Arkansas Children's Hospital. A native of Ann Arbor, Michigan, Dr. Bates earned a Bachelor of Arts from Reed College in Portland, Oregon, and Doctor of Medicine from the University of Missouri School of Medicine. He took his residency in pediatrics at Children's Hospital Medical Center in Boston, where he served as Chief Medical Resident. Dr. Bates was an instructor in pediatrics at Harvard Medical School and specialized in ambulatory medicine and emergency medicine at Children's Hospital Medical Center in Boston before becoming involved in children's and hospital administration there. He was Senior Vice President at Children's Hospital and Health Center in San Diego and administrator at Memorial Miller Children's Hospital in Long Beach, California, before taking his current position at Arkansas Children's Hospital in May of 1993. He is married to Dr. Sally Everson Bates. They have one daughter, Samantha, who is also a graduate of the wonderful school Reed College in Portland, Oregon, and both are practicing nurses. He has one granddaughter, Bijou. Also, I understand that he is quite a carpenter. He donated the handcrafted grandfather clock, which is keeping time in ACH Cress boardroom. I cannot think of a better ambassador for the state of Arkansas, a person dedicated to the service of our children. For 20 years, Dr. Bates' leadership has built Arkansas Children's Hospital into more than a hospital. Highlights of his 20-year tenure include, in 1994, ACH broke ground on its new West Wing, which after opening in 1997, added 55 beds to the neonatal intensive care unit, expanding the cardiac catheterization lab, and provided additional space for the clinical nutrition and research. In 2001, Dr. Bates led the efforts to secure the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation's pledge of $8.4 million to fund a renovation of the pediatric intensive care unit, which placed an emphasis on family-centered care. Now, this gift continues to be the largest in ACH history. In 2007, ACH and UAMS opened the Centers for Children in Lowell, a unique collaborative bringing together pediatric subspecialty services to children and families in Northwest Arkansas. And the list continues. In 2007, Dr. Bates led the effort to form a unique partnership of over 24 Arkansas agencies, groups, and companies, resulting in Natural Wonders, the State of Children's Health in Arkansas, a study that opened the discussion on the health needs of our state's youngest citizens. Major initiatives of the Natural Wonders partnership include the formation of a statewide trauma system, Arkansas's only pediatric injury prevention center, including implementation of a graduated driver's license, which demonstrated a sharp decline in motor vehicle fatalities in adolescents, and fighting food insecurity in Arkansas by helping qualified families receive assistance applying for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program on the ACH campus. In 2012, ACH celebrated its 100th anniversary, which included a year-long celebration of PR-driven projects under Dr. Bates' leadership designed to educate the public about ACH's early beginnings and to seek its assistance and support for the next 100 years. Dr. Bates led the opening of ACH's new South Wing, the largest construction project in hospital history, as well as the opening of the new ACH UAMS Centers for Children in Jonesboro. Dr. Bates balances the roles of administrator and pediatrician with ease, forever focused on the needs of the children. On any given day, Dr. Bates will round the hospital patient floors, checking in with patients and families, ensuring that needs are met with no problem too small for him to solve. All the while, many parents have no idea the soft-spoken gentleman who met with them is ACH's president and CEO, and that suits Dr. Bates just fine. Truly a communicator's communicator, Dr. Bates is a natural-born listener, collaborator, and consensus builder. He has a knack for molding key messages to match the communications needs of the hospital's many publics, patients and families, board members, employees, donors, volunteers, or the media. On any given day, you may find him in a television interview, videotaping an in-house communication, presenting to boards of directors or Rotary clubs, or helping solve a patient's concern on the hospital's Facebook page. Near the end of 2012, when Dr. Bates was to announce publicly his planned retirement at the end of June 2013, he was surprised in a major news conference to learn that the ACH and ACH Foundation Board of Directors had established the Bates Center for Improving Children's Health. The Bates Center will be a natural extension of Dr. Bates' vision and is designed to provide better health care, and better values to the children of Arkansas. Dr. Bates Your name is synonymous with Arkansas Children's Hospital, and we cannot imagine the hospital without you. Thank you for your commitment and service to Arkansas Children's Hospital and the state of Arkansas. On behalf of the PRSA Arkansas chapter, I am honored to present you the 2013 Diamond Award. I'm going to carefully pick this thing up.
Oh, I understand. Thank you for the warning, by the way.
It's my pleasure. Congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
With me here.
That's great.
Okay.
I need to turn just a little bit for the photo. guy.
Okay, all right.
Let's do this.
There we go.
There we
There you
go.
are.
And thank you.
Okay, I will take care of this by setting it carefully down right here.
And I'm gonna leave it right there, actually, for now.
Okay, that's probably a safe bet.
Yes, sir. I mentioned to Susan, we've gone from triathletes to people on walkers, so. I have to say, I don't know who wrote that stuff for you, but,
Oh, I wrote it myself.
well, wherever you got it, most everything you said is really about what the hospital as a whole has done, and you just stuck my name on the front of it, which is, I'll own up a couple of those bits, but an awful lot of them are due to the people you see around the table behind you, the table behind that, and the table over there with Dan and his people, and a whole bunch of other folks. So, on their behalf, and so on, we're delighted everyone is pleased with these results, but I promise you that everyone you said me was an author, not true. But those things did happen, and we're delighted about it. Thank you for the introduction. It's very, very kind. I also want to thank Eileen Denny for the nomination, wherever Eileen is. Thank you. And she somehow managed to persuade some other folks to support that nomination, which a couple of which startled me, including our pastor, who I thought was actually not going to do it because I don't always pay attention during the sermons. Truth be told. I do appreciate the Arkansas chapter of PSRA and the Past President's Council for this recognition. This is really a little bit overwhelming, and it's a little intimidating to speak to a group of professional communicators about how good a communicator you might be. It seems a little dangerous, but I will try to be helpful. As usual, Dan has provided me with all the things I'm supposed to say, and as Dan well knows, I may or may not follow them to certain degrees or not. When I was here about a year or so, my daughter, who was at the time about 13, said to me, "What do you do every day?" And I said, "Well, I go to work at the hospital, and I sit in my office and I talk to people, and I pick up the phone and talk to people. I read my email, I read my regular mail, I send mail, I send email, and that's about it." She says, "So you don't do anything, right?" And in a sense, I don't. And in a sense, it is all the time about communicating with people, all sizes of audiences and so on. And like many of us, I think we find we have some sizes that work really well and some sizes maybe we're not so good at. And you find where your strengths are and try to play to those. I remember one meeting in particular, the mayor called me. I'd been in town just a little while, and he called up and wanted to meet with me. And I thought, oh boy, are we in trouble? He says, "I'm bringing the chief of police and the chief of the fire department." I thought, what on earth can be going on here, right? So they show up, and the mayor says, "What else can the city of Little Rock, the fire department, and the police department do for Children's Hospital?" And that was sort of the tone of all the years that went on from there, because collaboration and cooperation has really been the hallmark of our experience in Arkansas, and all the people we work with and all the things that get done. That natural wonders thing that you mentioned earlier, this is really amazing to me. This is about 40 different organizations. We come together, we have no charter, we have no bylaws, we have no membership rules, we have nothing except good-hearted people interested in kids coming together and figuring out things to do. And when the graduated driver's license went into effect as one of the things that came out of this thing, we have somewhere between 38 and 45 kids a year not getting killed on our freeways and highways because of those laws. A lot of doctors will go a long time without scoring 45 lives a year in and year out. The legislature, for example, signed some documents not so long ago in which Sudafed gets put behind the counter, which probably aggravates some of you from time to time. It aggravates me from time to time. But in fact, that has reduced the number of admissions to our burn center for burns associated with making meth by 95%. It's had a staggering impact on that problem, and it's a simple matter of a piece of paper and some signatures in the legislature. So it's been amazing. At the table with us this morning was Dr. Bob Morrow, our medical director, and Dr. Jay Despande, who's our director of quality. These two gentlemen are very concerned about when we have opportunities to do better at the hospital and can improve quality. And I think almost without exception, every single time we find an event that scares us or is a near miss, or worse yet, one that actually occurs, the issue of communication is fundamental to what happened, or what didn't happen in most cases. And if you want to talk about a very practical, very real application of communication, I can hardly think of one that's more direct and more poignant than that particular one. It's a crucial question, and we're so delighted to have that. You mentioned the little thing we do, Chalk Talks, which is really fun. Let me just mention about that. It turns out I am a woodworker hobbyist, absolutely, and one of the things on the web pages for guys like me are little clips that you can click on. It runs about 2 or 3 minutes long, and it tells you how to do some little thing, how to sharpen this chisel, or how to adjust this tool, and so on. And it only takes just a couple of seconds, and I promise you the actors on this thing are not stars. These people are semi-literate and kind of knuckle draggers and so on. But the point comes across. It absolutely comes across, and it's very low production values. And Dan and his folks got together, and we started to do some of these things when we had something we wanted to make available to people who work on a different shift at a different time. We have all these different shifts right around the clock, year in and year out. The people who work Saturday night, you never see them. How are they going to figure out what's going on? So we do these little clips on the things we want everybody to hear exactly the same thing. And they just roll up with their camera somewhere and run the camera, and whoever knows about it talks. And so sometimes it's me, sometimes it's David, our chief operating officer, sometimes it's Bob or Jay or whoever. And these things are almost free to produce. They stick them up on the web page, and the employees read them or play them. They pay attention. On and on and on, and it's been wonderfully useful. It's very cheap, and it's very effective, and I'm delighted that Dan and his folks have been comfortable with the idea of having crummy production values for the sake of getting it out, because it can be done so fast, and we can do them so readily on almost anything we want to do. In fact, we were doing one about hand washing, and they wanted to film me in my office. And I said, no, let's go in the bathroom and I'll wash my hands, and you can take the pictures and we'll show it to everybody that you're supposed to do this. And that's what we did. And that turned out to be a fairly popular item, just in case somebody didn't understand what washing your hands might actually mean. So it was great fun. We've done a lot of things over the years. Dan asked me to kind of click through a number of them. I'm going to just skip right to the one that's been the most powerful for us. And that is back in 2002, I think. David can correct me if I'm wrong. We got the idea about working with Disney, about how we might work on how we improve our service and the quality of our service as perceived by the families and the patients, in many cases, who come to us. And we went down and took classes at Disney Institute, and we wound up sending quite a few people down there to get thoroughly trained. And that somehow, by some magic, has found its way into the very fabric of our institution, and continues to this very day. And really, Disney holds us out as the poster child for other folks who are interested in this. And when we get families who come in, I had one father from Ruston, Louisiana came in, and he said, does everybody in this place go to Disney for training? I said, well, you're pretty close. But it works well. It helps folks know what they ought to be doing and how to behave and how to deal with situations. And it also establishes a kind of a pattern for everyone that becomes self-perpetuating over time. And it creates an atmosphere that if you haven't seen it or don't know about it, I really would invite you to come by sometime and just come have lunch in our cafeteria Fridays at this time. The catfish is really good. So do come over and take a taste of what we're about and see if you can recognize what I'm suggesting. My favorite advice to you is go stand in the hall and look lost, and start a stopwatch and see how long it takes before somebody comes up and offers to help you. I would wager if it runs over a minute, I'd be very surprised. And I invite you to try it anywhere you like. It's really fun to kind of see that. Dan also asked me to talk a little bit about upcoming excitement and interest. I think this is it's an amazing time for two kinds of reasons. One is that the economic climate and the regulatory climate has got more storm clouds on it and more chaos than I could ever recall happening. So that part is very worrisome. But on the flip side, the opportunities for things like, microchips and what it can do for us in the medical business, things about biomedical sciences and bioinformatics and so on. And let me give you one very specific example. Some of our colleagues at some of the other children's hospitals have worked a lot on sequencing DNA, and they find out what the exact sequence is in a given patient's DNA chain. And they found out that there's a population of children with autism who have a particular defect in their genes that means that they don't make a certain chemical that they need for their brains to work right. And there's one specific defect about one specific chemical. Well, it turns out there also was sitting on the shelf gathering dust at one of the drug companies. There was a drug that somebody came up with that was supposed to help people with Alzheimer's disease. It didn't work for Alzheimer's, but it turns out what it does is it promotes the production of the very thing that this defect was not making. So these guys connected the recognition about what is the defect with the availability of a drug, put them together, and by God, it works. So they can figure out who to give it to, and they already had it on the shelf, and they go ahead and do it, and it's remarkable. In Montreal, they found a child who had apparently had ordinary diabetes, the kind that you take insulin for when you're a young child. And she was about 3 years old. And when they sequenced her DNA, they found out she didn't have regular old diabetes. She had a very unusual, very atypical problem with her insulin metabolism, which looked like diabetes but wasn't. And so that particular problem, it turns out, is readily treatable with an existing drug that's on the market. So they took her and treated her, and lo and behold, in about 6 weeks, they had her completely off of injections and completely on this pill, and she's been on it ever since. But the best part is they said, well, she got that defect from somebody. So they went and tested Dad, who also was supposedly an insulin-dependent diabetic all his life. Yep, he had it too. Yep, the pill works for him. Yep, he's off of it completely. And now you ask, what about Grandpa? Yeah, they got Grandpa too. And it doesn't happen for everyone, of course, but that tells you some of the power that's there, that instead of making a diagnosis that says, a descriptive diagnosis that says, here's what it looks like, and we have a name for it, it tells you exactly what the problem is, and you can think about what to do about it. And where that's going to go would just be unbelievable. I've got enough orthopedic hardware in me. I hope they find the one that has to do with degenerative arthritis, because that would be wonderful for folks who come after me. Here's another piece of that puzzle. There are companies now making a thing called a nanopore DNA sequencer. The problem with, if you wanted to sequence your DNA today, it would cost you somewhere near $20,000 if you just went out and tried to buy it somewhere. A nanopore sequencer can run your entire DNA sequence for about $1. And this thing has a membrane in it with a very tiny hole in it. In fact, this hole is so tiny, it only allows the DNA chain, not the double one when you unravel it, just the one sequence of DNA to flow through this hole. And they can, believe it or not, build this thing so there's like a molecular ratchet on the edges of the hole. So they dump a little DNA in the hole, they can disconnect it from being a coil into a long string, and then the one end of it gets caught in the hole, and the ratchet pulls it through. And each different amino acid that comes through gets, each DNA base that comes through triggers a different electrical conductivity across that membrane joint, and it goes right into the computer. Takes about an hour, and they're building these boxes now for $1,000. So in your lifetime, and God willing mine, this thing is going to be part of the standard doctor's repertoire to to fully sequence the DNA for as many people as anybody wants to do. It's cheaper than an MRI. It's going to be cheaper than most ordinary blood tests to do this. The challenge is going to come in figuring out what to do with the information once you have it, because now you have a sequence with a staggering amount of information about every individual, and you don't always know what it means. I remember the George Carlin gimmick in which he would report the scores from the football games over the weekend, 14-6, 9-12, and 11-1. And you had all the information, but you didn't know anything. This is kind of what this is like. And so the folks who are involved in computers and complicated calculations and elaborate algorithms and so forth are going to be vital to bridging from the technology which now gets the sequence into something that's actually useful. So that's the next part that we need to have going on. So when you hear about these different things going on, the power in here is just absolutely mind-boggling. And how we can make more of that happen and bring it to bear more and more precisely in the face of these financial and regulatory storms on the other side is really what we're interested in balancing out as we go forward. So I thank you again for this award. It is awfully nice and awfully strange to be associated with all those folks on the list, because those are all people I very much admire, and I'm delighted to be included, and I hope they don't feel badly when they see my name there next time you're handing out one of these awards. So thank you very much. And Dan, did you want me to open up for questions at this point or not? All right. Well, if there is something that you would like me to mention or talk about, I'd be glad to do it. The people at my table reminded me about be prepared, be short, and be seated. So, which I think is good advice. But if you do have questions, I'd be happy to respond to them. And I'm also not having to rush out of here afterwards, so if you'd rather just come up to me later on, I'd be glad to visit with you then. Thank you very much.
Now, Amy Oliver Barnes is going to lead us in a toast to these two incredible individuals.
I play a daily game with my students called, what was I saying again? So to prevent that, and because last time that Dr. Bates was in this room, I demoted him and promoted Scott Gordon. So I have it written down and I have it backed up. All right. When I was asked to salute both of these very worthy recipients with a toast, I searched for a commonality and discovered it quickly. We have all heard the expression, keep calm and carry on. Having witnessed both Susan and Dr. Bates at work, I know they have executed memorable and far-reaching tasks with a calm and quiet dignity. As Stephen Hawking so beautifully put it, quiet people have the loudest minds. Please raise your glasses, and of course I forgot mine, to toast two of the loudest minds in Arkansas. Hear, hear.